She slammed the paper on my truck's windshield so hard it bent the wiper. "You can't park here," she shouted, her voice echoing across the quiet beach road. I looked around. No one else in sight except seagulls and an old dock creaking in the wind. "This is my land," I said calmly, but my heart was already pounding. The cabin behind me wasn't much, chipped paint, broken windows, but it was mine. I bought it after my divorce, cash deal, no bank, no mortgage, no HOA. She crossed her arms, her lips tight. "We don't allow outsiders in this community." Outsiders. That word hit harder than I expected. "Ma'am," I said, "this cabin's been here since the 60s. Your community's less than 5 years old." She smirked like she knew something I didn't. "Not anymore. The HOA expanded the border. You're under our rules now," I laughed. I shouldn't have. Because that's when she pulled out her phone and said, "I'm calling the cops." I thought she was bluffing, but 5 minutes later a black SUV rolled up. 2 men in uniform stepped out. No badges, no plates. One of them said, "Sir, step away from the vehicle." My stomach dropped. She grinned behind them, whispering, "Told you." Something was wrong. Those uniforms looked off. Patches stitched unevenly, names missing. My hand brushed against the inside of my jacket, where my old ID still rested, the one that said U.S. Coast Guard retired. I kept my voice steady. "Before I move anywhere," I said, "you boys mind telling me what department you're from?" The taller one hesitated, eyes flicking toward her. She looked nervous now, and that's when I knew. These weren't real cops. The taller fake cop stepped closer, hand hovering near his holster. "Sir, don't make this hard," he said, but his voice cracked halfway through. The shorter one looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Karen, yeah, by now I knew her type, stood behind them with her phone recording, smiling like she'd already won. "He's trespassing," she said. "He threatened me. I didn't even move." "Check the deed," I said, and tossed a folded paper onto the hood. The taller guy didn't touch it. "We don't need that," he muttered. That's when I noticed something else. The SUV's dashboard camera wasn't real, just a dark glass box glued in place. "Funny," I said, stepping closer. "You drive all the way here in a car with no tags, no camera, and no body cams. You boys sure you're cops?" My voice was calm, but I could see their hands shaking. The shorter one glanced back at Karen. "He knows, let's go," he whispered. She hissed, "No. Arrest him now." The taller guy grabbed my arm and instantly froze. "You got about 3 seconds," I said quietly, "before I call the real sheriff." I tilted my head toward the beach camera mounted on my porch roof. Red light blinking. Recording everything, Karen's face went pale. "That camera's illegal," she shouted. "This is private HOA property." I smiled for the first time. "You sure about that?" Because behind her, coming down the dirt road, was a pickup truck with county markings. Real ones this time. My old friend Hank stepped out, sheriff badge glinting in the sun. He looked at me, then at the 2 fake cops. "Well," he said, "what do we have here?" Karen tried to talk first. "Officer, this man," but Hank cut her off. "Ma'am, these 2 aren't law enforcement. They're impersonating deputies. You want to tell me why they're standing on his land?" Karen's phone slipped from her hand and hit the ground. I didn't say a word. Just looked at her, then at the cabin I'd fought so hard to save. The wind picked up, carrying the sound of waves and sirens. Something told me this was just the beginning. Hank's deputies cuffed the 2 fake cops before Karen could even finish her excuses. She kept saying they were security. HO security. But Hank just laughed. "Lady, they've got no licenses, no permits, and that SUV's stolen." She froze like she'd swallowed her own lie. I leaned against my truck, arms crossed, watching her little empire crack. But I knew better than to celebrate early. People like her don't quit, they regroup. Sure enough, a black sedan pulled up. Out stepped a man in a suit. Smooth hair, expensive watch. "I'm Mr. Collins," he said, "legal counsel for the Bayshore Community Association." He flashed a fake smile at Hank. "There's been a misunderstanding. This property was recently acquired under HOA extension law." I straightened up. "That's funny," I said, "because I bought it from the county. Paid in full. No HOA attached." He ignored me. "This area falls under our new zoning district. He'll have to vacate until proper review." Hank raised an eyebrow. "You mean the zoning bill that was vetoed last year?" Collins' smirk faded. He looked at Karen, who suddenly couldn't meet his eyes. "Ma'am," Hank said, "I'd advise you and your lawyer friend to leave before you add trespassing to your list." They did leave, But Karen gave me that look as she backed away, the kind that says this isn't over. That night I sat on the porch with my old dog Diesel, listening to the waves hit the dock. I thought maybe it was done, but then my phone buzzed. Unknown number, a text popped up. "Enjoy the cabin while you can. Tomorrow it's ours." Diesel growled low, ears up. Headlights flashed down the road. Someone was out there watching. I didn't move. I just whispered, "All right, Karen. Let's see how far you're willing to go." The night air felt heavy, thick with salt and silence. I killed the porch light and let my eyes adjust to the dark. Diesel stayed by the door, tail stiff, low growl rumbling from his chest. A pair of headlights flashed once more at the far end of the dirt road, then went out. Whoever it was, they knew how to stay hidden. I reached under the porch step and pulled out the old trail camera I'd set up for fishing trips, mounted it by the dock, pointed straight at the road. "Let's catch a ghost," I muttered. Around midnight, the sound came, tires crunching gravel, slow, careful. I peered through the cabin window. A pickup I didn't recognize rolled to a stop near my gate. Two men jumped out wearing reflective vests. One started hammering a sign into the ground. I grabbed a flashlight and walked out. "Something I can help you with?" The bigger man turned, surprised. "Sir, this area's under demolition notice. Ordered by Bayshore HOA. Demolition?" I repeated. "You planning to knock down my cabin?" He shrugged. "We just follow orders." Before I could answer, Diesel burst from the porch, barking loud enough to wake the whole coast. The man dropped his hammer and I swung the flashlight on the sign. My stomach clenched. It read, "Unsafe structure to be removed by 6 a.m. They weren't bluffing. "Pack it up," I said firmly. "You've got the wrong property." But the big guy pulled a folded paper from his pocket and waved it. "Signed by County Inspector." I snatched it and scanned the header. Only one problem, there was no county seal. Just a fake stamp. Someone had copied official documents. And at the bottom, in small print, was a signature I recognized. Karen Watson, HOA President. I felt something inside me shift. Fear turned into focus. "All right," I said quietly. "You tell your boss this cabin isn't going anywhere." They left fast, tires spinning dirt. I went back inside, opened my old metal case from under the bed. Inside were photos, coordinates, and land surveys. Everything from when I served with the Coast Guard mapping this shoreline. And in those records was the truth no one in Bayshore wanted to hear. The beach. The one they'd been fighting over for years. Didn't belong to the HOA, it was federal land. I barely slept. By dawn, the tide had crept high against the dock, the same dock that had been marked restricted on every HOA map. I stood there with a mug of cold coffee, staring at the water and the stack of proof spread across my porch table. Aerial maps, federal seals, survey dates. All of it said the same thing. This beach wasn't just mine. It belonged to the U.S. Coast Guard reserve lands, still under federal protection. At 7 sharp, a convoy of SUVs rolled in. Black, shiny, too confident. Karen stepped out first, wearing sunglasses like she was walking into a courtroom. Behind her, 3 HOA board members and that slick lawyer Collins. A camera crew followed, probably her idea of public humiliation. "Mr. Ryan," she said, smiling sweetly, "we're giving you one last chance to leave peacefully. The board voted to reclaim this property." I chuckled. "Reclaim? You mean steal?" She ignored me and turned to the camera. "This man has illegally occupied HOA property. He's refused multiple notices. We will proceed with enforcement." Collins held up another folder. "You are hereby ordered to vacate under section of a fake expansion ordinance that never passed," I interrupted. I slid a folder across the table toward them. "Here's the real paperwork. Federal land, section 42B, reserved for maritime training and coastal monitoring. I should know." I pulled out my old badge, because I helped secure it 20 years ago. The cameraman froze. Collins's face drained of color. Karen laughed nervously. "You expect us to believe that?" I tapped my phone screen. The projector on my porch wall lit up, showing an official Coast Guard survey dated last year. Hank's signature was right on it. "This whole shoreline was never transferred to the county, which means your HOA's been trespassing since day one." Karen stepped forward, shaking her head. "You're lying," I smiled. "Then maybe you should call the feds and ask." Right on cue, another vehicle appeared, white with a blue federal emblem on the side. 2 uniformed officers got out, walking straight toward her. One of them looked at me and nodded. "Mr. Ryan, we got your call. You did the right thing." Then he turned to Karen. Ma'am, you and your associates are under investigation for falsifying federal documents and unlawful land seizure. Karen's jaw dropped. Collins tried to speak, but words failed him. I finally sat down, calm as the tide rolling in. Told you, I said quietly. The beach isn't yours. By noon, the whole thing had turned into a circus. News vans parked along the dirt road, drones buzzing overhead, reporters shouting questions. Sir, is it true the HOA tried to seize federal property? Did you fake those documents? Cameras swarmed around Karen, who now looked nothing like the smug queen she'd been yesterday. Her sunglasses couldn't hide the panic in her eyes. Hank kept the crowd back while the federal officers combed through the HOA files. Collins tried to slip away, but one of the agents stopped him. We're going to need to see your credentials, sir. The lawyer's face went pale. He mumbled something about calling his firm, but his hands were already shaking. Karen turned toward me, desperate now. Look, we can fix this, she whispered, pretending the cameras weren't rolling. I didn't know the land was federal. They gave me the wrong documents. I just stared at her. You forged my name on that notice. You had fake cops try to drag me off my property. You knew exactly what you were doing. She blinked fast, trying to look remorseful, but the microphones caught every word. The crowd started murmuring. One of the neighbors yelled, Hey Karen, how's that HOA power working now? Laughter rippled through the crowd and she turned red. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. An officer came over and handed me a folder. You might want to look at this, Mr. Ryan. Inside were copies of bank transfers, large ones, from the HOA account to a company registered under Karen's husband's name. Payment for land clearance services. I looked up at her. You were getting paid to steal my cabin? She didn't answer. The cameras didn't need her to. The agents started loading boxes of evidence into their truck. Karen tried one last move, lunging for the papers on the table. Hank caught her arm. Ma'am, that's enough. As she was led away, she looked at me with something between hate and fear. You think this ends here? She spat. I smiled, tired but steady. It does for you. She was driven off in silence while the reporters turned toward me. One asked, What are you going to do now that you've won? I glanced at the cabin, the dock, the waves rolling in. I didn't fight to win, I said. I fought to keep what's mine. The news storm faded after a few days, but the quiet that followed felt strange. Reporters stopped calling, the federal trucks left, and the only sound again was the ocean tapping against the dock. I finally had peace, but peace felt heavy, like it was waiting for something else to break. Diesel lay beside me on the porch, snoring softly. The sun was setting, painting the water orange. I should have been happy, but I couldn't stop thinking about everything Karen had said before they took her away. You think this ends here? I started digging through the papers the agents had given me. There were records of the HOA's secret deals, illegal lot sales, false boundary claims, even bribes to a county clerk. My name showed up twice, both times listed under removal pending. That meant someone had paid to push me out long before I ever moved in. It wasn't just Karen. There were bigger names behind her. That night, I got a call from Hank. You might want to keep your doors locked, he said quietly. Word is some folks tied to the HOA are mad you blew the whistle. I got a feeling they're not done. I glanced at the shoreline where faint headlights moved slowly across the sand. I'm not going anywhere, I said. After we hung up, I walked to the dock and looked out at the dark water. For the first time, I let myself remember why I'd bought this place. My wife and I used to come here when I was still in the Coast Guard, before she got sick, before everything fell apart. She'd told me once, when you find peace, don't let anyone take it again. That's what this was really about. Not the land, not the cabin, peace. I ran my fingers across the badge still sitting on the table. Then I opened the small metal box beside it. Inside was a memory card from the porch camera, one I hadn't shown anyone yet. It had caught something the night the fake cops came. Someone else standing behind Karen's car, not her husband. Not Collins, a man in a county jacket, the same clerk who signed the fake zoning maps. So Karen wasn't the top of the chain after all. Someone else was pulling the strings. And if they thought I'd stop now, they didn't know who they were dealing with. The final storm came fast, not with rain, but with truth. 2 weeks later, I drove to the county hall, the same place that had stamped those fake zoning papers. I walked in wearing my old Coast Guard jacket, camera bag over my shoulder. Nobody stopped me. Maybe they thought I was just another retiree handling paperwork. Inside the records office, the county clerk looked up from his desk. The same man from that night video. His smile froze the second he saw me. "Can I help you?" he asked. "Yeah," I said calmly. "You already did." I placed the memory card on the counter. "That's you, right? Standing with Karen while she posted illegal notices on federal land?" He swallowed hard. I don't know what you're talking about." I leaned closer. "It's funny how federal investigators know your name now. They're going to play this video during their hearing." For a second, I saw his whole career flash in his eyes. Panic, guilt, then collapse. "Look," he whispered, "I didn't plan this. They paid me to file the expansion maps. I thought it was harmless." "Yeah," I said. "So did the fake cops." By noon, Hank and the federal team were there. They seized every document from the clerk's office. Fake deeds, land transfers, payoff slips. It turned out the HOA board had been selling coastal plots they didn't even own, funneling money through shell companies. Karen was just the loud face of a much bigger crime. That night, the news ran the story nationwide. HOA fraud ring exposed by retired Coast Guard officer. They played the clip of me standing by my cabin, wind whipping through my hair as I said, "I didn't fight for this country to be told I can't live on my own land." People online called it the beach that fought back. A week later, I was back on the porch watching Diesel chase gulls across the sand. Hank dropped by with 2 cups of coffee. "You know," he said, "the county's offering to name this area after your service." I smiled. "Just make sure they don't put an HOA sign anywhere near it." We both laughed. The air was calm again, finally honest. As the sun dipped low, I looked at the waves and whispered to myself, "Guess we got our peace back, huh?" Diesel barked once like he agreed, and somewhere out there on that quiet beach that almost got stolen, the wind carried the truth. Freedom doesn't need permission.